I think today's subject is something that pretty much everybody can relate to, and probably everybody has felt at some point or another in their life, and that is feeling left behind, feeling like you just don't have as much as the next person and that everybody else is somehow doing better than you. And in a world where we live completely on social media, at least a lot of people do, it can be easier than ever to make those comparisons and feel like your life isn't as good as others. But more importantly, it can really make you feel like everybody else has more money than you. And let's face it, if you know you're dead broke and you don't make a lot of money, then probably most people do have more money than you. No offense, not trying to make you feel bad, but you also have to be realistic with your situation, right? But the reality is a lot of people feel this way even if it's not true. So I want to go over some key reasons of why this happens and what you can kind of do to avoid it, and give you some good reasons to avoid feeling like this, because some people try to overcompensate and end up going into debt in order to look rich. In fact, one thing I'm going to talk about later in this video is how buy now, pay later transactions are set to be at record highs this holiday season. The reason for that is because people just spend far more than they really can afford, and it's all just because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're trying to look rich. They're trying to look good for their friends and families and look like, hey, I can afford this gift, or hey, I can afford that car, or whatever it is, but the reality is they can't. So the first thing that happens to people is they get caught up in the comparison trap. Okay, and the comparison trap is easier than ever to fall into because people look at their neighbors. It used to be, oh, I see my neighbor across the street just bought a brand new car, I need to buy one too. Well, people still have to contend with that, but on top of it, people are contending with a 24/7 barrage of different social media feeds that constantly make everybody's life look better than yours. And somehow people are constantly taking all these lavish vacations, people are constantly buying all this brand new stuff, always moving into a new house every couple of years, it seems like, and you're sitting there looking at this like, how on earth are people affording this? Well, maybe they're not. Maybe they are eyeballs deep in debt and they're just doing all this to impress other people, which was on my list the other day of things you definitely should not do and shouldn't waste your money on, which is impressing other people. You also have to understand that nobody posts on social media, oh, my life sucks, or I can't afford groceries this month, or I decided to take on a second job just so I can keep up with all of my bills. Nobody puts that on there. They put their vacation. They put the fancy restaurant they ate at last weekend. They put the new TV they just bought. They never put, the real life stuff. Everybody just puts all the things that try to make their life look great. And honestly, I don't participate in any of this stuff. I do have an Instagram and a Facebook account, but I'm not active on there. I see a bunch of you guys follow me all the time on my Instagram account. My Facebook has been privated for years because I'm just don't want to deal with any of that stuff. The only social media platform I'm active on here is YouTube. But I think we can all agree that this is a little bit different than scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through Instagram or just mindlessly watching, one TikTok video after another. YouTube brings a different value to your life. At least it does for me. So the biggest thing you can do to kind of push back against this comparison trap is to just give yourself some recognition, take some inventory of the good things you've done in life and the accomplishments that you've been able to make, and stop constantly looking at everything everybody else is doing. And if it bothers you that much, stop looking at it altogether. Wow, take a look at this, everyone. This house actually just sold back in August this year. They still have the just sold sign in the yard here, and they listed it in February for $5 million, cut the price down to $4.5 million. Check out the final selling price on this house, $3.7 million. Now, I'm not saying $3.7 million isn't a lot of money, but that is a massive discount. We're talking a $1.3 million discount off the listing price, which the moral of this story is, don't be afraid to make an offer in 2024 and going into 2025. You'd be surprised what you can get when you make a solid offer and the sellers are willing and desperate to sell. The next thing is that people's spending habits are invisible, okay? You see what they post on social media, but you don't know what all their other expenses are behind the scenes. Like for instance, you might see somebody that's always posting the vacation pictures and going out to eat pictures on their social media, right? And you're like, how can they afford these $200 dinners and flying first class to Europe once a year or whatever it is, right? Well, what you might not see behind the scenes is everything else that they cut back on. Maybe they don't have a TV. Maybe they don't have any streaming services. Maybe they live in a very cheap house or just pay a low amount in rent or even have roommates to help make up for it. Or they might even be living paycheck to paycheck like half of the people in this country are, just to be able to keep up with that lifestyle, or constantly charging all this on the credit card and they're paying a high amount of interest every month to continue down that road. So the next time you see somebody doing things like this and it sparks that little bit of envy inside of you, just recognize that, hey, maybe they're not doing as good as they look, or maybe they deserve everything that they have because you don't see all of those financial sacrifices they've made in the past or are currently making in order to have that lifestyle. Here's something else that a lot of people don't think about. And that is that people with money usually don't show it off. That guy driving the Lambo down the street, or the person that is always posting all the fancy social media stuff, they might actually be the ones who are broke. And then your neighbor across the street that still drives an old car and hasn't made any updates to their house in a long time, maybe they're the ones who are a multimillionaire. I read a book a long time ago. I think it was called The Millionaire Next Door was the title. And the idea behind that was, you don't really know what people are doing. You don't know what people are sacrificing or doing financially in order to get ahead in their life. And sometimes the people that don't even look wealthy are the wealthiest ones of all. Definitely seeing the amount of listings around here pick up from the last time I was here. Check this out. This house sold in 2023 for only $1 million. And then they listed it for sale for $3.5 million back in June of this year. And now they're already down to $2.9 million. So it seems like it's going to be a very familiar story, just like the house we saw a little bit ago. And then, of course, right next door, there's another house for sale. This house sold in 2022 for $1.26 million, and they have been trying to flip this house since May of 2023, guys. Let that sink in. A year and a half they've been trying to flip this house and no one is buying it, okay? They have messed with the price several different times here, but have kept it relatively high, lowered it, raised it again, listed it for rent. Nothing is happening. And fast forward to today, they actually have the price higher than they had it back in May of this year. May of this year was at 1.67 million. Now it's at 1.849. So somehow the geniuses that are trying to sell this house think that raising the price up and down is going to get it sold, and that hasn't worked for over a year and a half. I'm just seeing far more homes for sale than I did the last time I walked through these neighborhoods, and that's no surprise given how many people are trying to cash out before things really take a massive downturn. But it seems like a lot of these people are just too late. Anyways, back to people showing off their wealth. The wealthy people typically don't show off their wealth, and a lot of wealthy people lead relatively modest lifestyles. They don't feel the need to showcase their wealth or prove to people that they're rich. That's just not necessary for people. And what wealthy people tend to spend their money on instead is they invest in their career, they invest in their business. They don't buy the extravagant cars or mansions like this one. That's not really typical for everybody that has money. And just because somebody doesn't show it off doesn't mean that they're not actually doing great. The other thing that really makes people feel like others have more money than they do is similar to the comparison trap, but you're constantly comparing yourself to people who are, 5-10 steps ahead of you in life. You can't look at your current financial situation and say, oh, I'm doing terrible. And, look at people that have these big mansions like this over here and say, well, they're doing so much better, so, I must not be doing so great. I heard a quote at one point before that says something like, you can't compare your beginning to someone else's end. Basically, the idea there is you can't look at what somebody, spent a lifetime accumulating and thinking that somehow you should have this too at 25 years old. I think people should avoid the comparison trap altogether, but if you're gonna do it, then at least you should be comparing yourself to your peers, you know, people that you work with, people who are similar age groups to you, people who are in a similar phase of life than you. You know, you can't compare what you have or what you've been able to accumulate and look at what somebody else has who's twice your age. You know, which kind of leads directly into my next point, which is a lot of people just expect too much too soon. You know, I had this lofty goal when I was in my early 20s, and I had this written down somewhere. I might still have the piece of paper somewhere that, you know, when I came to Miami, had it in my mind that by the time I made it to like 25 years old, I was going to be a millionaire. Okay. And that didn't happen. Didn't even come close. I respect the ambition that I had when I was that age and thinking that I was actually going to be able to achieve that. But then real life set in and never were able to have that materialize. But I never gave up on the goal of becoming the millionaire. I never gave up on the steps I need to take to eventually get there, you know, because by the time I got to 25 and realized that it didn't happen, you know, instead of being disappointed, I realized that that just wasn't going to be the path for me, and I'm going to have to find a different way to get there. And that was okay. And I also realized, because they say that your brain doesn't really fully mature until you're 25 years old anyways, but one thing I noticed by the time I got to 25 is that maybe I was just expecting too much too soon, like so many other people do. And it's great to have goals, guys. It's great to have the goal that, yeah, I want to be a homeowner. It's great to have the goal that I want to make a certain amount of money each year. You know, it's great to have a goal that I want to reach this milestone by a certain age in life. But don't beat yourself up if you don't make it, because life happens and things are just unpredictable. You know, you don't really know how it's going to go until you're already on the road. Yeah, some people might get that fast track to success, and you might know some people who got really lucky and made it big with crypto or stock trading or whatever, but those people are outliers, okay? They're not the norm. For most people, you're going to have to lay out a very common sense plan to get to where you want to be financially and have the things you want to have in life. Don't just expect it to come right away as soon as you get your first job. That's the problem with a lot of younger people today, but I believe it all stems back to social media. They see other people their age who have been able to achieve that and think that somehow they're worthless or a loser if you haven't been able to become a multimillionaire by the age of 25, which is just not true. Realize that most people will never hit that milestone in life and are perfectly fine with that. And this next one's kind of a cliche, but it's also very true. And it's that the grass is not always greener. You know, one thing that people don't realize is that people who have all this stuff, who have all this wealth, also have a lot of problems. You know, it's a lot of responsibility to own 5 houses and 10 different cars. You know, think about all the different bills that need to be paid each month and being on top of all of that and all the maintenance that needs to happen on those cars and all of the staff and cleaning people and maintenance people and gardening people and everybody that it takes to maintain all those houses and coordinating all that, and when something doesn't happen or something goes wrong, being responsible for getting all that fixed too. Like, it's a lot of stuff. So it's not like being rich and having all the stuff that goes along with it is going to be the best outcome for people. And a lot of times it can really just end up causing more stress than anything. Instead, you should be focusing more on being grateful for the things you have and things that you've already achieved and being happy with that, you know? Think about it. Even if you have simple things, like say you have a house to live in that you can easily afford. Say you have running water. Say you have indoor plumbing. These are all things that we take for granted here in the United States that people in other countries wish they could have. They kill themselves to come over here and just try to get a piece of what we have here. Why do you think you've seen this crazy border crisis, you know? These guys are clawing their way over here just to get here in hopes that they can get a small piece of that American dream. Here's another big one that can make it seem like other people have a lot more money than you, because maybe they actually do, guys. It might not be your imagination, but you have to understand that you might not realize how they got that money. You know, people forget that there's still a lot of wealthy people out there that pass down their money in the form of inheritance to their children. And those children inherit their wealth and become rich overnight. And you can't compare yourself to somebody like that if you're not somebody who received that sort of inheritance. I'm one of those people. I have never received an inheritance, and I probably never will. You know, I don't come from a wealthy family. If I get anything when my parents pass away, it's going to be very, very small amount of something, but maybe it will be nothing, and I'm okay with that. I personally have never known anybody that inherited a lot of money and just came into a lot of wealth overnight. But even if I did, I wouldn't be looking at this person and be like, oh, wow, you know, like, how come I'm not doing as well as them? Why am I so much further behind than them? Like, well, no kidding, you're further behind. You know, if somebody just inherited $10 million and they can all of a sudden live the life of the rich and famous, then it's not really a big surprise that you can't, because you just didn't have that same fortune. And here's something else, guys. People follow a lot of these social media accounts that make them feel inadequate like that. If for whatever reason you feel inadequate from seeing posts from a certain individual or somebody that you follow, my suggestion would be to stop looking at that altogether, to just stop following that person, because the whole idea of social media was to have it be something fun, you know, have it be a way to connect with friends and family. And it's gotten so far away from that genesis now that people use it as an envy machine. You know, people look at it as a comparison tool to see, like, what does this person have that I don't now? And I could care less, because I'm not really into the material life that much. Like, I feel like at my age, I've already basically, you know, achieved and acquired pretty much everything I want. You know, the only real material thing that I still want to have that I don't have yet is going to be a second home in California. So when I do my summer trips over there, I don't have to keep renting a place. But I know that that's not going to happen overnight either. I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to wait for the right deal, keep saving money, and I'll find something when I do. And in the meantime, I'll just enjoy the fact that I only have to pay a fraction of the money each year on rent, instead of paying a lot more to maintain the cost of a second home. But I don't envy people that have this already and have found a way to achieve that sort of success in life. I know it comes with headaches as well. You know, if you have another place somewhere on the other side of the country like that, if something happens to the place while I'm over here, that's a headache and a problem that I didn't have before. Sometimes it's like, be careful what you wish for, right? So you just got to remember that you're probably not as far as behind as you think, and everybody's financial journey looks different. You just got to focus on your own progress, focus on your own goals, make sure you celebrate your successes and the things that you've been able to achieve along the way. Because the last thing you want to do is end up like these people who are going to be stuck in this buy now, pay later scheme in order to maintain their lifestyle this holiday season or to impress others. That's exactly what they're saying is going to happen, guys. They are predicting we are going to see a record year in this holiday shopping season in 2024 for buy now, pay later transactions. And just recognize for a minute, what does buy now, pay later mean? So it means that I'm buying it now and I'm opting to pay for it later. And why would someone do that? Well, the only logical reason someone would do it is because they don't have the money today. So people are already falling into these dangerous spending traps, and most likely a lot of it is fueled by everything that we just talked about. Comparing yourself, looking at social media too much and thinking that everybody else just has more than you and you need to do your part to keep up, and this is the only way you can figure to do it. In fact, they're saying they expect $18.5 billion of holiday purchase this year to be funded by buy now, pay later accounts, and that's a new record. That's up 11% from just 1 year ago, guys. If we keep going like this, you know, in less than 10 years, that will be an over 100% increase in buy now, pay later transactions. Pretty soon, everybody's gonna be financing shoes and purses and, you know, stupid little silly things, video games. And technically, buy now, pay later has been around for a long time, but in a different form. It used to be called layaway. I don't know if stores still do layaway, but here's the big difference, guys. With layaway, you would put an item aside at the store and say, I want to put this on layaway, and you would not get to take the item home. Okay, but the store would let you make installment payments on that item until it's paid for, and then you get to take the item home. So it's similar to buy now, pay later with two very important differences. Number one, you don't get the instant gratification. You don't get to bring home the item before it's paid for. okay? So that teaches you to be patient and be able to show some restraint when it comes to spending money you don't have, first of all. The other important difference is that with buy now, pay later, you don't pay any interest, okay? And I know a lot of the buy now, pay later apps, you can buy something and still not pay interest if you pay it off in a certain amount of time. So this doesn't always apply, but a lot of people end up paying the interest because they can't pay it off in the time frame that they thought they were going to be able to. Look, something I just covered a couple months ago when I was in California, even with Apple now on iPhones, they're having buy now, pay later built into Apple Pay, guys. Like everywhere you go, they're just making it easier and easier to check out with buy now, pay later. So when people are looking at things online that they know they can't afford, it makes it a lot easier to pull the trigger because it feels like there's no consequences in the moment. Those consequences are delayed. Just like buying a house in 2022, those consequences are delayed till today in 2024, when your house is worth less than it was in 2022, and your insurance and your property taxes have skyrocketed, and all of a sudden you're struggling to afford the payments. Same deal. And you know, the most worrying trend about this buy now, pay later data is that people used to use it for like large ticket items, like buying a new bed or a mattress or buying a new TV, something that costs a lot of money, right? But now they're starting to show in the data that people are using it for essentials like groceries. The data also shows that 75% of buy now, pay later transactions takes place on mobile devices. So this thing here, cell phone, is making it very easy for people to go further into debt than ever before. I feel like in a lot of ways that cell phones, guys, were like the best invention that man ever had, as well as the worst one. You know, they have enhanced our lives and enriched our lives in so many ways and made certain things so much better and easier than before. And in other ways, it has just completely turned our lives upside down and completely ruined our lives with social media and the constant scrolling and the constant notifications that are designed to get you to pick up and look at every little thing and either purchase something or look at what somebody else is up to. It is just awful in that way. Something else I reported on just a little while ago, I think a month ago or so, is that now a lot of people are going to start seeing their buy now, pay later accounts show up on their credit report. Before, these accounts were exempt from their credit reports, but that's not going to be the case moving forward pretty soon. So people have been able to get away with having this extra phantom debt that doesn't show up on their credit report, but now this extra borrowing is going to start catching up with people, and it's going to limit how much you can borrow in the future with other things the more of this type of debt you have. And one of the biggest troubles with buy now, pay later is there's different companies, you know. There's Affirm, there's Klarna, you know, it's built into Apple Pay, and I don't even know how many other ones there are out there. But it's easy to get wrapped up in different buy now, pay later schemes with multiple different companies, and next thing you know, you're juggling 6 or 7 buy now, pay later payments. And this is in addition to all of your regular monthly expenses. I mean, it's very easy to get overextended when all you got to do is hit one button to make a purchase and then worry about the rest of it later. This kind of leads me into the last thing I want to cover here, because Australia, they recently just banned social media for children under 16 years old. And I'm not going to get into the entire reasoning behind it or all of the pros and cons of the new law over there, but basically, they don't want children's minds being poisoned like that from an early age. And I don't know if it's really going to make a difference, because 16 is still pretty young, and you know, still definitely you can be under the influence of what you see on social media, make you feel inadequate in so many other ways once you start using it at 16. So I'm not sure how effective this is really going to be. But the idea behind it is like, you know what? We don't want our kids' minds being poisoned from day one. At least let's give them a head start and a chance to not have that until at least they're 16 years old. Whether or not that's going to have the outcome that they were hoping for over there is yet to be seen. Social media is unhealthy for a lot of adults. Just imagine how unhealthy it is for, you know, a 7 or an 8-year-old. And here's something else, guys. A lot of people mention, oh, look, Michael, you walk through all these rich neighborhoods, all these houses are a couple $1 million, nobody can afford that. Well, I can't afford it either. That doesn't take away my joy from walking through areas like this. It's peaceful, it's safe, and I live close by. I don't have any reason to drive, you know, an hour away to a bad neighborhood and make a video, guys. So if this sort of thing is making you feel inadequate, I encourage you to stop watching it. You know, people who watch this channel and get value from these videos, get value from all different parts of it. Some people like the walk and talk aspect of it and seeing all the different neighborhoods and things I show in the videos. Other people love the information. Other people are here for both. But if for some reason my videos are making you feel like you don't make enough money and your life isn't good enough, by all means, don't watch it anymore. Because I don't want people to feel like that. I want people who watch this channel to feel encouraged to do better. You know, I talk about a lot of problems on this channel, a lot of things that are wrong with the government and the economy and the real estate market. And the whole reason to talk about all these things is to give people an idea and the knowledge of what's going on, so that way you don't fall into the mistakes. You can see past the noise. You can see past all of the lies and make good, sound financial decisions for yourself. So at the end of the day, people who watch my channel should be feeling encouraged and empowered with all of the knowledge I share here on the channel. But if you're not feeling like that, then it's probably time to change the channel. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.